Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the first of our two sessions of face-to-face meetings, public engagements, if you will, for the Pearl River Flood Risk Management public meeting. This one is at, of course, 1 o'clock. We'll have another session at 6 p.m. this afternoon. I would just like to thank you. My name is Tom Shaw. I am the project manager for the project. A couple of housekeeping rules that I'd like to go over. As you came in one exit, most of you on this side, there's a second exit over here if we have to have one. So we do greatly appreciate your attendance here. This meeting the purpose is to be informational and educational, but it's also to be for us to get feedback, for us to get input from you, the public. It's very important to us. And at this time, I would like to recognize our panel speakers today. On your far right-hand side, we have Robin Colosimo. She is the Deputy Assistant Secretary for the Army for project planning and project review, or planning review. And then next to her is Colonel Christopher Klein. He is the Vicksburg District Commander. And beside Colonel Klein is Brandon Davis. He is a planning liaison with the Regional Planning Environment Division South. So with that, I'd like to open with a couple of little quick things. One is there's a sign-up list out there. Of course, it's not mandatory, but we would love to have a record of your attendance here today. I would ask that you probably not put your personal email on there because it will become public record, and I would hate for somebody to see it and have some email addresses.
Well, now you tell us.
And so when you came in, there were a couple of boards out there, one of which is what we kind of call the rules of engagement. Why is that important? Well, this meeting is being conducted face-to-face, and as I said, we're asking for input from you. And so we want everybody to have an opportunity to speak that wants to do so. But we're also offering a virtual meeting as well. And so that information, everything that you're hearing there now, they will hear as well, with the exception being they won't be able to ask the question except through the chat mode in the WebEx itself. So I would ask that if you do come up for provide us some feedback or input or comment, try to limit your question, your comment to 3 minutes. And likewise, try to avoid interrupting others. And lastly, I would just ask that please wait to be recognized. I will kind of be the moderator when it comes time. We've got 2 stations up here for comments. So with that, all right, let's go to, I do want to mention, we've got boards on both sides. One of the boards is a study board. You'll see it's got some push pins in it. And we would ask that if you don't mind, if you would place a push pin with your location, where you're from. The Assistant Secretary of the Army is wanting feedback. They also want to know where the concerns are coming from. So that's a big deal as well. There's also a board that shows the study area here in the Jackson metro area. And then we've got 2 hours allotted for this meeting. So if for some reason we can't get to your comment, there's multiple ways to do it. We have a comment box up front where you can physically write them out. There's an email address for you to be able to send in an email question. And then lastly, if you choose, we can do a video recording of your comment at the end. So with that, let's go ahead. And so why we're here? Well, we're here because we're looking to provide information to you and get feedback. The non-federal interest is the Rankin Hines Pearl River Flood and Drainage Control District. That's what we call the non-federal interest, or NFI. You're all familiar with the history of Pearl. Pearl was flooded a lot of times. And once again, we're trying to do something about it. So the non-federal interest provided a report. And that report was a draft feasibility study and environmental impact statement. They provided that back in July 2022. and it was reviewed by the USACE office, comments were generated, and then they engaged us, the Vicksburg District, to help resolve the data. So, lastly, you'll hear about the review process shortly, but we basically are trying to get the data gaps, get that information to the Assistant Secretary of the Army by the 1st of September, with the final NEPA to follow up in January. With that, let's get going. Next slide, please. So, as I mentioned earlier, this is actually the second location we've been to. We were in Slidell yesterday for 2 sessions similarly. We'll do another session here in Jackson at 6. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we are doing virtuals now, but we'll also do a virtual only on June 1st. I also mentioned ways you can provide comments. Next slide, please. All right. And so we will get a Scott Fingham, you want to introduce the essay?
Thank you, sir. First of all, thank you everybody for being here. I can't say enough how meaningful it is to have folks come in person during the workday and share their views. We are looking forward to this discussion. We had 2 great sessions in Slidell, and continuing to build on that here is hugely important. As we move forward, continuing that engagement and being as transparent as we can throughout this process to deliver under the opportunity we have before us is our goal here. We'll talk more about that today. As said, I'm Robin Colosimo. I do oversee what's called as project planning and review in the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Civil Works Office. Long story short, anything the Corps has to do that comes through recommendation that ultimately goes to Congress for authorization or is delegated to my boss, as it has been in this case, to make a decision, has to come through my group. So we are sort of arm's length, oversee the Corps of Engineers and what they do every day across the nation on all kinds of projects. I'm going to talk a little bit more about why we're here, but first I want you to hear it from my boss, who was not able to attend today, Mr. Michael Connor, who is the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Civil Works. Can we play the video?
Hi everyone, I'm Mike Connor, Assistant Secretary of the Army for Civil Works. I provide policy oversight and direction for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Civil Works program. Thank you for joining us at this community engagement session on solutions to address flooding along the Pearl River in Mississippi. Hi everyone, I'm Mike Connor, Assistant Secretary of the Army for Civil Works.
Pause for technical difficulty. Hold on. I think it's okay if we just hear him.
Hi everyone, I'm Mike Connor, Assistant Secretary of the Army for Civil Works. I provide policy oversight and direction for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Civil Works program. Thank you for joining us at this community engagement session on solutions to address flooding along the Pearl River in Mississippi. We look forward to hearing from you about your needs and concerns regarding flooding issues and a proposed project to address these challenges. As all of you know, the city of Jackson, Mississippi has experienced a devastating flood as recently as 2020 and 2022. I saw firsthand some of this flooding in August of last year in a visit to discuss a proposed project. It is a priority to provide people of Jackson with effective near-term solutions to the flood risks, and we have a tremendous opportunity to deliver these solutions through the bipartisan infrastructure law and funding provided through that mechanism. This administration has set aside sufficient funding to complete planning and implementation of a plan consistent with existing authorities and in compliance with federal environmental laws. Your input today and the final technical report from this effort will inform my decision on the solutions we will implement to reduce flood risk in Jackson. I appreciate your time and input today as we work together to find the best solutions for the Pearl River, Jackson, and this region of Mississippi. Thank you very much for your time.
I know it's a little wonky on the speaking. We are posting the slides at some point, right? Will it also have a video?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, we'll make sure that's available in case people want to rehear that. Bottom line for me is that we are honored to have Mr. Connor as our leader. What I want to share with you is that he has vast experience in solving complex water resources problems at the federal level and state level. His experience includes in and out of government and regional work, and he was most recently the Deputy Secretary of the Department of Interior, and he brings a lot of that knowledge to us from a different lane within the federal government that benefits us here in this kind of space. He is the ultimate decision maker in this situation, and we'll come back to why that is in a few minutes. And in policy oversight of the Corps of Engineers, a vast agency with important responsibilities, that oversight includes plans, designs, and implementation of projects, so the entire scope of those activities. And he is obviously very interested in the engagement of the public and the community we're talking about here that's affected by the flood problem. So why are we here? We are here to advance a flood risk management solution after decades of repetitive flooding in Jackson. We want to hear about your experiences there and what solutions look like. You know that for over 100 years, headwater flooding has plagued the Pearl River area and disrupted businesses and industry throughout Jackson. 5,000 commercial structures and residential structures, impacts on a population of over 500,000. And your notable events were in 79 and 83, and more recently in 20 and 22. I will say personally, I was here with Mr. Connor last year in 22 as the rains were coming and the floods were about to arrive, and it was very poignant to arrive home and see what was happening on the landscape where I just stood. We also know the Pearl River Basin has tremendous environmental value, including wetlands that filter waters and eventually flow into the Gulf of Mexico and support thousands of geese, ducks, and migratory birds. For decades, as you know, the Corps and non-federal interests have sought to solve the flood risk management problem in Jackson, but a lack of project justification, community support, and funding has stalled meaningful progress. That's the challenge we want to solve with you. We look forward to working with you to do that. Next slide, please. So the federal interest piece that I wanted to get back to, why that exists, it's really about what Congress has directed the Corps to do. Congress directs the Corps by authority to study something and providing monies to implement solutions once those projects are authorized. In this case, in 1986, Congress authorized the Corps to plan, design, and implement a flood risk management project. Later, in 2007, they modified that authorization to allow Army Civil Works Secretary, Mr. Connor in this case, to determine the appropriate plan to implement without further consultation of Congress. That latter part really matters. Twice they have said you have federal interest to do something here. Congress has determined it once and then reaffirmed it. And as many folks pointed out in slide L, and others may amplify that here as well, so we also had specific direction in 2018 to ensure we appropriately considered the potential downstream impacts as well as economic justification of any potential solution. Bottom line is we've had the responsibility to carry out a project here. We just have been unable to make that happen. The difference today is funding. Why is that different? It was the bipartisan infrastructure law that my boss just mentioned. Monies were allocated because of bill to plan, design, and implement a project. Once you have authority and funding, it's a question of what you can implement, and that's what we want to scope with all of you. With both of those in hand, it allows us to go forward through the decision process with you all. As we end up in that decision point, we can quickly go to design and implementation. That is a very big departure from normal processes in terms of opportunity. It speaks to the federal interest at hand. And we are looking to work with all of you to reinvigorate technical and community work to deliver for Jackson. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Colonel Klein, who's going to walk through the details of where we are and right ahead.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming out this afternoon for this public session. We had really good engagement yesterday, where we learned a lot about impacts that they're seeing even today, right now on the lower Pearl River with erosion along the banks, silting, the impacts of the aging infrastructure down there, and how it's been maintained. We also heard a lot of concerns about what's happening with the environment down there. We know that there are coastal restoration solutions that the Corps is working on down in our coastal Louisiana, and they really project. So the Pearl River has got a long history of both navigation as well as flood risk management on it. And the story of flood control here in the city of Jackson started in 1968 with the construction of those first levee systems. Since then, we've had the flood of record in 1979. I've seen the pictures online, and then the last year I saw the pictures live, 2022, because I was here. All right, watching that happen and working with the team as to how we did the flood fight here locally. In between 1979 and now, there have been many locally proposed projects as well as core proposed projects in order to deliver that flood risk management solution for the city of Jackson. And this latest locally presented plan was presented under Section 211 of the 1996 Water Resources and Development Act. The plan was reviewed, pushed forward by the local group, and presented for consideration directly to the Secretary. And that brings us to where we are today and the work that we're doing today. Go to the next slide, please, sir. Our latest effort started at the end of last year, 2022, by direction of the Secretary. And our mission is to build off of previous work, all previous work that was presented over the years, and develop a report that assesses an array of options for technical feasibility, which includes economic feasibility, environmental acceptability, and legal compliance. And the two most critical items that we're working on right now are identification of what is known as the National Economic Development Plan. All right, and that is the plan that is the best, for the best financial benefit, provides the most flood risk reduction. All right, so we're working on identifying that plan. And once we identify that plan, that is the plan against which all other arrays will be assessed. And any other option has to provide as much flood risk management as the NED plan would or more. It will never be less. The second thing that we have to do is complete all environmental compliance activities. Make sure that this is an environmentally acceptable project moving forward. The final thing that we're going to do is we're going to provide an analysis of comprehensive benefits. So we have two types of benefits that we're looking at. We're looking at quantitative, those that we can measure, be it economically or by the numbers, as well as qualitative, because we know flood risk management means a lot more than just the numbers. It means a lot, floods take an emotional toll on folks as well. All right, and there's also a lot of ancillary benefits that come with other projects. And so we're taking a look at the comprehensive range of benefits, and really appreciate your feedback on that. Last thing I want to leave you with, the Corps of Engineers, we're neither a proponent or an opponent of any one project. We just want to deliver flood risk management solutions for the nation, and today we want to deliver that for the city of Jackson. So now to take you more through where we are technically in this particular effort, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Brandon Davis.
Thank you, sir, and great to be here. My name is Brandon Davis. I am the planning liaison at the Vicksburg District Corps of Engineers. I'm an agricultural and environmental economist by trade, so have a lot of experience in that area as well. And echoing what Robin and Colonel Klein said, I want to thank you guys for being here today. I'm a local boy. I understand some of the impacts of what's going on in this area, of what you need or what you're looking for, but I also have an appreciation for those that have concerns. And I think today it's very vital that we have your input as we go through this, so I'm just great for you to be here. Set the table for these next few slides here of what we're going to be talking about. Give you an overview of the non-federal interest, their report that they did. We're going to go over some of the alternatives that are currently being evaluated. We'll look at the study area of this project, and then we're going to talk about areas of interest. We'll get to that in a second. Just want to lay the table out for you as we go. If I say something in one of these previous slides, and it catches your attention, I'll probably get to it before we're done here today. But at any rate, the non-federal interest, their report was authorized to be completed under Section 211 authority of the WRDA, Water Resource Development Act of 1996. A memorandum of agreement was executed on July 19th of 2012 between non-federal interest and the Army Corps of Engineers that describe the terms of the Section 211 authority. Those terms will specify in the 211 feasibility that in the 211 feasibility report would serve as a decision document for the Assistant Secretary of Army for Civil Works for review and for approval. The alternatives that are non-federal interest that looked at, and you see up here on the screen, a non-structural plan, a levee plan, a channel improvement plan, which was their preferred alternative, that consisted of constructing channel improvements, the demolition of the existing weir near the fuel water treatment plant along 55, that site, constructing a new weir, low flow gate structure further downstream that would enlarge the existing river channel, federal levee improvements using an excavated material plan, upgrading existing non-federal levee into a federalized green levee that surrounded the Savannah Street water treatment plant down to the south. So what's been going on since they submitted their report? So the Assistant Secretary of the Army's office and the Corps, we've been working with non-federal interests on resolving some identified issues that were in their 211 study. Currently, the Corps is in the process of preparing a draft environmental impact statement to identify the National Economic Development Plan. As Colonel Klein was talking about, NED, sometimes people get tripped up on that, but really it's how we get the best bang for our buck. To make it as simple as possible, if we had our flood damages before the project was $10, that's just a rough number. If we can implement some type of a project that reduces it down to $5, then we have $5 benefits. And again, that's very elementary. Just to try to give you an idea, we're trying to implement a plan that maximizes that NED. So that's one of the things that we have been charged to do with. But we're comparing the level of flood protection provided by the NED plan that the non-federal interest has determined, and as we said, their preferred plan is the channel improvement plan. We're comparing that to see the level of flood protection of their alternatives versus the alternatives that we're going to be evaluating. But something that needs to be really pointed out that's important is the environmental of all of this, right? Because we have wetlands down to the Pearl River Basin, and we need to make sure that we're good stewards of that. So we are currently in the process of assessing the environmental acceptability and the technical feasibility of these alternatives. We'll provide the Secretary the necessary information to choose a plan to be implemented. Robin made that clear that the Secretary is the one that will be making the recommendation. We just have to provide Secretary Connor the information to do so. Additionally, consistent with Section 1176 of the WRDA 2018, this draft environmental impact statement will also assess potential downstream impacts in the Pearl River Basin. We talked about that, the importance of protecting the environment, protecting the Louisiana coast and all areas to the south of us. Next slide, please. All right, thank you. So the alternatives that are being considered, and this is what the Corps right now, what we are considering. And the first you can see is a non-structural alternative. And that's really something that we do for all of our projects. We look at a non-structural plan. You have Plan A, which is relocating structures through valves, relocating property, both commercial and residential. Also, you see A1 there is additionally is a non-structural measure of increasing maybe the elevation of a structure and flood proofing. Again, these are things that we are looking at. I want to point out to you guys, though, that on the non-structural alternatives, these are the only alternatives where there are no structural features being considered, such as any type of channel improvements. So it's just the buyouts, the flood proofing, elevation increases, things of that nature. So if we look at alternative C, this is the channel improvement plan, the recommended plan of the non-federal interest. And it's similar to this plan here is similar to what we've seen from other Corps studies around the country. There was a project in Fort Worth District that was a river widening, and it has some similarities to that. What this alternative includes is excavation and widening of the river channel, the use of material to enhance levees, creating islands for environmental habitat, and a weir location down toward the south or at some point in the river channel, because we need to make sure that we are cognizant of the infrastructure of Jackson with the water. So we're going to put a weir in to assist with the water for the city of Jackson within that alternative. There's also some type of potential for a combination or a hybrid C, a non-structural, and you see an alternative C. That doesn't mean that that's it. There could be a combination of that, some type of a hybrid plan that would be considered. There's also, we're looking at other potential alternatives, any that are brought to our attention. One that was brought to our attention, there were some students from the University of California, Berkeley. They put together a plan, they submitted that to us, and that's something that we'll have to consider as we're going through this process. Next slide, please. So our study area there, and I know it's a little bit difficult for you to see there, and I just want to point out that what I'm showing here is a 100-year inundation slide. And it's kind of difficult to see, and excuse me, I'm going to stand up just to show you guys. Make sure I got enough and don't tear anything up. Tell my wife, tear something up. If you can see this area through here, it's a little darker shade of gray. That is the 100-year inundation site, or the area, the footprint of this project. So what we're looking at here, or what you are seeing, you're seeing up at the top the Ross Barnett Reservoir, and the mouth of that spillway down to the south. And give you a good idea, down to the south there is just to, if you go back to the east, that's Florence. So it gives you an idea of the 100-year footprint in this area, but also we need to be cognizant of what's going on downstream as well. Next slide. So areas of interest, something that I talked about, and this is where I really need your help. I really do need your help here. So these are some things that we have considered working with our non-federal interest and working with our project delivery team. But again, I need to hear from you. You guys are out there, you know the ground truth, you can tell us. So some of the things we've looked at is flood risk reduction, water supply, water and wastewater treatment, the impacts to ecosystem restoration in the environment. Also, there's some existing waste sites out there, cultural resources, going through the Section 106 process to make sure that we aren't damaging culturally sensitive areas. Transportation, how is this going to impact transportation of the interstates or local roads, things of that nature. Downstream impacts, we talked about that. Recreational access and opportunities, community impacts, quality of life. If we put some type of project in, how's it going to be harmed to that? Economic opportunities. We would love to see more economic opportunities for Rankin and Hines County. But there are potentially others out there that you guys could help us with that we may not have considered. There may be something up there that you have in mind that we would love to hear on, maybe if it's flood risk or whatever it might be. Just let us know. There may be a nuance to that that we haven't thought of. So please be open with us and provide that information. Next slide. All right, well, I'm going to yield the microphone back to Colonel Klein. Thank you.
Your little rodeo. So this is our timeline. It looks pretty aggressive. Right now, the technical team's work is continuing. We are here today to receive your feedback and take into consideration everything that you're observing on the ground and what you want as a community. By August, we'll have a draft report complete. That draft report will go out again for review as well as comments in accordance with our standard processes. And then that will inform the final report, which will be complete in December, and will then go to the Secretary for decision in January. And it does seem like a streamlined and aggressive timeline, but it's very feasible. That's because we're building on many, many years of work, a lot of information that was already there. And I think that, with your feedback and with all the work that's being done, we can get to a good flood risk solution for the city and the community. So thanks a lot, folks. We look forward to hearing from you today, and thanks for coming.
Okay, thank you, panel. So we are now about to enter into the time where we would like to have input, we would like to have feedback from you. And so before we do that, there are multiple ways that you can submit your feedback as well as through your personal testimony here. So I would ask that as you come to one of the podiums, please wait to be acknowledged, and then the panel will respond to the questions. So with that, we can begin. So whoever would like to come up and make a statement. Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me now? I'm Representative Becky Curry District 92. I have Copiah, Lawrence, and Lincoln counties, which the Pearl River goes right through my district. And we have very much concerns about this one lake. It was two lake, and I understand they're trying to call it something else now because nobody wants it. You said that you were having problems with funding, but what you mean is that you needed tax money in order to do this, and we, the people, don't want it. One Lake is a private real estate development scheme masquerading as a flood control project. We have some very strong politicians who've made sure you have the money to do it now. And I say a flood control scheme because I don't believe that the flooding in Jackson, Mississippi will be better. If you put a dam or whatever you're proposing to do, you're going to have more flooding. And I don't think you can assure us that that will happen. When you have a group of people, rich people, who just want to get richer by having a reservoir number 2, we're going to sell lakefront properties, and we're going to make sure the water stays up here. You have to understand, we have a whole lot of problems in Jackson. They come down the Pearl River, and it's nobody's fault in Jackson, Mississippi. We get raw sewage every day from Jackson. What are you going to do with that? Block it up some more? I just don't understand. This does not compute with me. And I don't think the Corps of Engineers want to be a part of a get-rich-quick scheme. I just am so upset about this. These waterways are owned by the people of Mississippi. They're not owned by anybody else. They're owned by us. We want to swim. We want to fish. We want to have our wildlife. We can't do that right now because of the sewage that comes through our district, but we have been in hopes for 20 years that that would be fixed. If we want to take this much of taxpayers' money, for God's sake, let's fix the sewage before we go into anything else. There's so many other problems that need to be fixed. You may have to flag me when my time is up because I have a lot to say. One Lake is probably going to raise everybody's property tax. Everybody's property tax. I'm in the state legislature, and unfortunately, unbeknownst to most of us, we passed several bills in a disguise years ago. I've been here 4 terms, 16 years, and I'm unopposed, so you have to listen to me for 4 more. I'm sorry. But they have a levee board who we gave the authority to raise your taxes, and they don't have to answer to anybody. How stupid were we? And I apologize for that. We have people in our Congress who are not worried about the people south of Jackson. They're worried about Rankin County. Well, don't come looking south of Jackson for a vote. Let me just assure you, because we're all mad. And I'm going to stop there before I say something I'll regret. But I need you guys to know the people of Mississippi do not want this. Only a handful of people who want to make money off this want this.
Thank you, ma'am, for your service, first and foremost. Thank you for your input. You reminded me of a couple things I wanted to highlight. So, number 1 of which is, yeah, it's true that we now have an opportunity to deliver a project not yet designated here, right? But the number 1 thing is, it could actually be no action as well. So it could be no action, it could be this NED non-structural thing, it could be the NFI plan, it could be something else. So also interested in your ideas here that I'm sure you have your experience about what would work for flooding and flood risk management in Jackson. So please also take the time to share those with us. Thank you.
Thank you all for putting this on. I'm Attorney Justice Gibbs. I'm a young professional here in Jackson, born and raised. And one of my main concerns has been the flooding and the issues that's been impacting low-income and minority communities in the city of Jackson. I really think that most of the issues, the big-ticket issues that we've been dealing with are disinvestment in the city of Jackson, flooding, and And so there are a few EJ neighborhoods that have unfortunately been experiencing more flood impacts as a result of the current levee system, the system that's been in place since the 1960s. So I'm looking for solutions for those communities that are within the city of Jackson. I hope that you guys have done much research on those areas that continue to have these problems. And so again, I think that the current system that we have in place, it protects a lot of other areas than those that's been impacted negatively for years and years. Also, there's a choke point in the current levee system that actually increases the flood levels north of the levees, from my understanding. And I believe that at least this is a solution, or at least something that's been proposed to help the people that are within the city limits that have been going on with these issues for a very long time. Also, the non-federal sponsor of this has adopted one of the most progressive minority contracting policies that will ensure that if the project does proceed, that the economic benefits will funnel back into the local communities by these contractors. And I think that's very important so that the money can, of course, help us with these economic issues that I've been discussing. So thank you again for providing this forum.
Thank you for your comments. On the EJ part in particular, this is a huge priority in this administration, particularly for my boss. So we want to make sure that any solution that's put forward doesn't just deal with maximizing net benefits and leaving communities behind. So if you have particular areas, we want to see what those suggestions are as well. We'll have ideas in our plan as well, but we want complete solutions to ensure that that equity piece is taken care of. So thank you.
Sir?
Yeah, so I just want to add on to that what Robin was saying. If we could, I'd like to meet with you to see on the map some of the areas you're talking about. We do have areas that we are looking at that has the EJ areas that are impacted. I'd like to know if there are more, something we might have missed. One thing we don't want to do is we want to make sure whatever project is implemented is not creating any type of food deserts for these areas of environmental justice, and we're taking care of everyone and no one's being singled out. So I really would like to meet with you afterwards so we can see some of those areas on the map. Thank you.
I'm going to take one too, because I appreciate what you say. So I appreciate what you said too about getting the contracts going back. And so there's one thing that this district is really good at, and we're just recognized for by the Mississippi Small Business Association. It's delivering back to those 8A and hub zone folks. So and that's absolutely, we will meet small business goals through all the work that we do. So thanks a lot for highlighting that.
Good afternoon. I rise in support of the One Lake project. My name is Robert Graham, Hines County Supervisor representing District 1. I'm also a levee board member. District 1 encompasses North and Northeast Jackson. There are over 47,000 registered voters in District 1. The majority of those voters live on the east side of Interstate 55, the side that is most prone to flooding. The people on that side of the interstate are the most anxious every time that it rains or that we receive heavy rain, knowing that the river is going to rise and that there is a potential for flooding. The household with the most anxiety is the person that lives at 531 Rollingwood Drive. The reason for their anxiety and fear is because that is the first house that will be flooded in the event that we receive heavy rain in the city of Jackson. Many citizens in North Jackson not only feel the emotion of anxiety, but they are also afraid. Afraid that the politicians are not going to do anything this time around. Afraid that the One Lake project is going to slip away one more time. Afraid that we will let politics and good common sense get in the way of us doing something to improve the lives of the citizens of the city of Jackson and Hines County. So I rise in support of the One Lake project. I'm speaking on behalf of the people that have been flooded 9 to 10 times over the last 10 years. The people who live on Rolling Wood, Riverwood, River Run, downtown Jackson, and many other streets in the city of Jackson. The One Lake project is not only good for Jackson and Hines County, but it will help improve the quality of life for the citizens and bring good economic development to the entire area. So it is time. It is time for the vision of Mr. John McGowan to come to life under the One Lake project. I can sum it up with 2 words followed by 5 words. The 2 words are flood control. The 5 words: controlling the flow of water. That is One Lake. It's time to get it done. I thank you for your time.
My name is Betty Joyce Johnson, and I live at the 830 Cypress Trail. I was in the news several times considering the flood. I lived through the flood and helped the people in the community of the flood. I'm not afraid because God did not give me the spirit of fear, but love, power, and sound mind. But I know one thing, something new got to start because what we've been having, it got to end because it died through the work. But one of the things that I have a problem with is that when the flood happened, nobody came out and helped us except a few members of the church. Now, our supervisors, they came and did a little bit of look, but nobody came to our rescue. We did not receive any funding. And a lot of people had to live in their cars and all over due to the fact that the flood happened. I don't know where y'all send the money at, but we did not receive the money. And that was my main concern. Our insurance, when I even paid for our hotel, I had to stay in the facility of my church for 3 months. I had insurance, but you had a lot of folks that did not have insurance and did not have a way to get around due to the fact that the government did not help us. And my house had to be completely remodeled. Now, I don't want this to happen anymore, and I speak on some of the elders. I'm an elder, 6 to 8 years old. And some of the elders had a problem with people coming and helping them, and then they had a problem with not receiving any type of funding. And you had some people that didn't have insurance. My main concern is what are you all going to do about the welfare? And some people had anxiety, some had depression that hit them so bad. Even I had a little depression because I was tired. I worked the same for the flood when I got out of college in '76. I worked this area and then in Prentice. But to live through it myself, I saw the residue that it left. And the residue is still upon people's heart. Every time it rains, my neighbors get afraid and nobody around to help. And any time a little water come up, they become afraid because they are afraid of their life, afraid of their property, and a lot of them have invested. And they are retired, had invested a lot in Jackson. They don't want to leave Jackson. But I want to know as a whole, what are we going to do? We can have politics coming all day long. They can talk noise, but they're not doing anything. I need to know from you all to give them assurance that if something happens next time, that you all going to be there to help them. I didn't see neither one of your group coming out to help. I didn't see nobody. Because I had to take a boat in 1920 when it happened to go get my medication out of my house. But nobody else came around to help us. But my main thing is for the people's voice is that what are you all going to do? Do the best thing you can do to ensure that this flood won't happen anymore. And if you have a program, do it well because we're dependent on you. We're not dependent on these politicians running around here saying what they're going to do because they haven't did nothing so far. So I need to know what happened to the money They need help. Because we're not relying on our city officials. We're relying on you. Because we have paid your tax. Because I pay tax on my house. Even as a senior citizen. Because my house is more than what they allow. I pay tax on my automobiles. And I'm expecting you all, since you're working under this term, is that y'all going to do something different. And this is the first time he's seeing you all. But I want to thank you all for letting me speak. I'm Betty Joyce Johnson at 5830 Cypress Trail. Thank you again.
Ma'am, I really appreciate your words on so many levels, and we want to make sure we're capturing your experience because it does cross at parts of government, state, local, federal, and we need to do better together. But I really wrote down a lot of what you said, but do the best you can, not the least, should be a guiding principle in what we're doing right now, and I'm going to take that to heart. Thank you.
So much.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Scott Crawford. I live about a mile and a half away near the intersection of State Street and Meadowbrook Road on Choctaw Road, right adjacent to Eubanks Creek. I can speak for everyone in Jackson when I say we all want the risk of another 1979 flood minimized. It was awful, no doubt. You've seen the photos. Doing nothing is not an option. However, I must share that we can't ignore the flash flooding risks along our creeks that run into the pond. My neighbors and I on Choctaw Road along Eubanks Creek experience serious flash flooding that gets into some of our houses and threatens the rest of them 2 to 4 times a year. 2 to 4 times a year. Much more common than the rare Pearl River floods. I shared photos and expressed these ongoing concerns with Assistant Secretary of the Army for Civil Works, Jamie Pinkham, back in March 20th. Why doesn't the current proposal include flash flooding mitigation along Jackson's creeks, Town, Lynch, Eubanks, and Hanging Moss? That's the first question. Do you want me to go into the second question, or do you?
Yep, we can start with the first one, and that is, I can assure you that the model that we just developed and ran in order to assess all the alternatives includes, I know specifically Town Creek, as well as I think all the other tributaries. When we put in any of the array of alternatives, we'll be looking all the way up into the tributaries to assess the flood risk reduction.
All 4? Town, Lynch, Eubanks, and Hanging Moss?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, second question. I'm aware that the current One Lake plan involves very extensive and invasive dredging excavation of natural wildlife habitats. I'm also aware that a less environmentally destructive plan exists, offered by fluvial geomorphologist, basically a hydrologist, specializing in rivers, Dr. Matt Condolf and his graduate students at the University of California, Berkeley. That plan involves half the dredging as the One Lake plan, and so is less expensive. It is also less environmentally impactful while mitigating flooding through measures such as levee setbacks and channel restoration. That plan preserves most of the sensitive wildlife habitats while adding helpful downtown parks and green spaces that we all want. It seems to me to be a cheaper and less environmentally destructive plan, which could potentially reallocate the savings towards creekside flood mitigation. Has the Army Corps of Engineers considered this alternative?
Technology. And Dr. Crawford, thank you for your comments there. Yes, sir, we received that plan. We are still looking at it. To answer your question, we are going to consider that to see if it's something that can be justified. There may be pieces of that can be added to whatever the final array might be. But yes, sir, to answer your question, that will be looked at and assessed.
Sir, I might also mention on either side, if you see the study area maps, that shows that 100-year flood elevation, which includes the tributaries as well. So you can see that it was modeled. Sir?
My name is Ronnie Pruitt. I'm the Diocese Bishop for the Fellowship of International Churches, also a senior pastor of New Horizon Church International in Jackson, Mississippi. I'm also chairman of Downtown Jackson Partners, and I live in South Jackson, which is the lowest income census tract, or one of the lowest in Jackson, Mississippi. In 1979 and also 83, I pastored actually in South Jackson. Our church got 7 feet of water in it. My personal family's house, once again, had water up to the roof of it, and that house was destroyed. That community that we own property still gets flooding all the time, and so I am absolutely for flood control and better flood control than we have right now. And so there has to be a better solution. But I'm also here today to say to you, I'm for a tremendous opportunity that I think that lies before us here in Jackson, Mississippi. And that is, I support the One Lake Project because I think it becomes an opportunity for particular communities in the southern part of this city to have an opportunity to come out of all the years of degradation and blight and pain and suffering to see something much better happen for them in this city. And I truly believe that what in the past had been a problem can be one of the greatest opportunities to ever happen in this city. And as I look at what happened once again with the reservoir area of Noah, I believe that can happen again in the southern part of this city. Once again, for communities along that will now have that kind of shoreline. And so I support the One Lake Project because I think it gives that kind of opportunity for tremendous improvement in the city of Jackson, and certainly to see African American business folk as well get their rightful share, once again, of the contracts that will come out of that and people being put to work. Thank you.
Hello. Good afternoon. My name is Sean Miller. I live at 5853 Ripple Road, part of the Ripple Road subdivision. It's something that I just came here and want to share that we're kind of stressing the impact that we have with flooding. One of the things that I would like to see is what plan can we implement the fastest. I live there. I've been there with Miss Betty and being displaced twice in the past 2 years, you know, being to the situation we have to monitor your house. Even for me and some of my colleagues, you got Allison, well, not colleagues, some of my neighbors, Allison and Casey Small. When the impact flood happened during COVID, I think a lot of people missed.
For years, we serve 5 counties, we have 6 campuses, and 2 of those specifically are in Jackson. What we need in Jackson is a vibrant community that includes a stable water source that allows us to continue to serve our mission, and that is to provide education to the residents. And not only education, but we also have a responsibility to help businesses build a workforce, and we do that every day. We need companies that can thrive and survive in Jackson so that we can help put people to work and stay in the community that they live in. Nobody should be forced to move because of issues that can have a solution. You know, the continued loss of population has definitely had an impact on our campuses. But more importantly, the challenges that we've had with the water source have had a tremendous impact on our campuses. We have one campus that's on Chadwick Drive. It's our Nursing and Allied Health Center, where we train in 14 different health-related fields for employees to go to work. Every time there is an issue with the water, that causes us to close campus, causes us challenges, particularly in the laboratory settings. You cannot operate in a medical environment without water. And so that impacts our students. We talk about the stress that that brings to them as an individual who is trying to complete their educational endeavors. But it also affects us from an accreditation standpoint. There are standards that we have to fulfill, and we want to do that, most importantly for our students. And then we have a Jackson campus that is on Elm Medgar Evers Boulevard. And the commitment that Hines made back in 1970s, Jackson was the first satellite campus for the college. And at one time, at its peak, we had 1,600 students at that campus, serving both academics and career and technical programs. The continued challenges that we have with flooding, water, etc., have an impact on us every day. So as an institution, we are 100% in support of the study to find a solution so that we can continue to serve the community. Community's in our name, and that's what we want to do. I would also add that, it's not just about Jackson. Jackson is the centerpiece of our state, and Jackson is the centerpiece of the areas that we serve. Jackson's success is success for the counties surrounding us and the state as well.
Thank you, sir. My name is Jeff Good. I'm a restaurateur here in Jackson, Mississippi, resident for 40 years. Have 3 restaurants, employ 220 people. I'm going to speak off the cuff. I hope my points are direct and salient. We'll see. I don't think this flood control project is going to fix the water supply system problems that plague us, that have caused me innumerable shutdowns and problems. I don't think the flood control problem is going to fix the sewer problems we have, which are immense, larger than the water. I think without it, none of that will be fixed. I think the only way it's going to be fixed is by greater resources and working together. And when I first met Ricky Claypen 30 years ago when I opened my first restaurant, and he was a junior officer at the Convention and Visitors Bureau, Jackson was at its near zenith. We had 200,000 people who live in the city. We have 150,000 now. We have 33,000 kids in Jackson Public Schools. We have 16,000 this year. Our city is failing. Our city's systems are failing. When we did one of our first projects together, we were working to try to keep WorldCom, MCI WorldCom, in the downtown building they were in. We want to keep them in Jackson. This week's news article is that Cracker Barrel has closed. This is hard medicine for those of us who live in Jackson. I speak more to my fellow citizens than to you from the federal government because you guys are going to do what's right. We have studied this for years. And there are competing challenges on this. And there is the environmental versus the economic development angle. The economic development angle is not part of your core plan. It is flood control. Thank God we need it. But this city needs economic development. This city is not going to be able to pay for fixing the water system, pay for fixing the sewer system, pay for these gentlemen I see in the back who join us from JPD. We can't pay our bills. And we need some type of economic shot in the arm. And we need an economic shot in the arm that provides economic opportunity for all. So the arguments about who gets the contracts and who gets to build it and who gets to carry the dirt, these are issues that happen after the project is created. The key is there's a project on the table that could fundamentally change the trajectory of our city, along with what Ted Benefit is doing, and along with a citizenry that can for once get excited about something that we can do together to provide some form of relief, not just flood relief, but relief from the constant drudgery of living in our city where every single day is another challenge. So I beg and plead that our citizenry truly look at the opportunity that is here, and perhaps we can park some of our prejudices about how we get here. Sausage is not made pretty, boys and girls. I tell it all the time. It ain't pretty. But the benefits here could be extraordinary. I am unabashedly for this project.
Testing. Good evening, everyone. Now, I've heard everything that's been said, and believe you me, some of it is true and some of it is not. Now, I live not too far from here, right up in Northeast Jackson, right off of Old Canton Road, right below the spillway, and the North Canton Club subdivision. Then we have the Canton Avenue Estates. Then we have the Rolling Meadows, which is McLeod. 3 neighborhoods right there. Right off from the river. In 20, the houses along that line all the way from the spillway itself was flooded severely. Now my neighbors behind me, the water got in their homes. And what it did for my house, it came right up to the door and went up into our cul-de-sac. You can't tell me that a God that I serve didn't stop there. When the flood came again in 22, the waters were gushing and they were about to do the same thing. It was coming across the creek, right behind us, my neighbors and everybody. We stood there and Mr. Warner and I, we watched the waters as they were coming. And we just, within ourselves, just knew that, hey, we're fixing to go through this again. Didn't want to deal with it, but we had no choice. All of a sudden, the water stopped at some point in time, as if somebody had poured a big drain plug up, and the water receded and went back. You have to have been there to see it. Once again, my God. But I want you all to know, you people, and I thank God for you all, because you are the only somebody that's in this equation that seems to have some sense about getting some kind of resolution to this problem. This comprehensive plan, yes, we do need a comprehensive plan. And it needs to be filtered right now. Because I was at home a few minutes ago just removing sandbags and putting them out in the back near my garden. And when I thought about it, I said, please, I hope these bags don't have to be used again. Because sandbags, 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 sandbags. That's all we've been doing. We had neighbors that were around us we never met. But this flooding thing, it has brought our communities together. And we're going to do the best that we can as these 3 communities to work with you all and to work with anybody and everybody that wants to get this plan that's going to help Jackson. Not only from the spillway, but all the way down to the Gulf Coast as well, because the Big Lake project, which is the Ross Barnett Reservoir, is one of the biggest problems. I'm just going to be honest with you, tell you the truth. Now, when the waters come from the Yakanuki up in Otala County all the way down and gets back into River Bend and gets into the river there, then it dumps into the North Ross Barnett Reservoir. Then when the reservoir is so full, and the houses that are there, these boats that are there, that riverfront, lakefront properties, which they can't control, then the lake is too full. So what do? We open the floodgates. We let the water down here and flood Jackson. That's the way it happens. I mean, let's just be honest. We have a governor doesn't care about us. We have a mayor that doesn't know what to do. Now, my thing is, when you don't know what to do about something, you find somebody that knows. Now, there's nothing wrong with not knowing, because a lot of us don't know everything. You all don't know everything, but if we all come together, as that businessman over there said, and we come up with this plan, and we develop this plan, and it may include the One Lake project, which some people think, it's going to help. It's not going to help, it's going to hinder. Who knows? Let's come together, let's get some kind of resolution, because I'm not leaving. The only reason I'm still here now is because of my parents. In '79, I was 15 years old, scared to death because I thought Jackson was just going to be wiped away. When we were underwater. Here it is, 20-some years later, right up here. My dad passed right before the pandemic in 19, and I was glad in the sense that he was gone, because we talked about the flooding and what was going to happen. He didn't see this here, but my mother now, when I had to relocate her in 20, and then in 22 she thought the floods was fixing to come back up again, I'm not going to put my mother through this again. The snakes that have been at our house right up here in Northeast Jackson. I opened the door one Sunday morning on my way to church, There was one of the biggest moccasins coming right up to our front door. If I open the door, I'm coming out. He coming in just like he lives. There was a bookcase under my garage with my books from Jackson State when I finished my master program. And one slither under there, I had to move the thing when I got home from under there. I mean, snakes on top of snakes. Water and all this stuff that's going on. Let's just resolve this issue. I mean, I'm not leaving Jackson. I'm not leaving Northeast Jackson, and all the people that are up there with us, we're going to get together. If I have to go and pull all of them out there and bring them out here, and we're going to, like I said, we're going to be here with y'all for the duration of this thing. There's a doable plan. Roger Wigger was out there. He says, this is a doable plan. Whatever the plan is, which is the comprehensive one, it can and it will be done. I heard our president even say that the fundings is there whatever we need. Now, did you all hear that? He said, okay. And another thing, election time is fastly approaching us. If we want to get rid of the rimwracks that don't want to help us, now is the time. Get up off of your behind and go out and do what you need to do. It is your civic duty. Go and vote. Then we won't be complaining about this, that, and the other. But I'm one of the younger persons that you wanted to give them what you want. And I don't mind telling it like it is, because I'm going to get all of my young pastors up here and around in Jackson, and we're going to show these people something. We're going to show them that we deserve to be heard. We're going to show them that we deserve to be fellow citizens of Jackson, and we are not something that you can just sweep in the corner and just leave by the wayside. We deserve better than this. And don't y'all think y'all deserve better than this? All of us deserve better. And Ms. Yates, you're going to be hearing from me.
Sir, can I get you to do your final comments?
Yes, you can.
Thank you.
And like I said, when it comes down to whatever comprehensive plan you all come up with, we have confidence in y'all that y'all can do this. It can be done. We're going to be here, like I said, to support you all. And whatever you all need from us, that community up there in Northeast Jackson, we're here for you. We're going to help. We're going to do anything and everything that we possibly can.
My name is Natalie Rhodes. I'm going to try to be quick because I know we're running out of time, but I would just like to say this project will make flooding worse for much of Jackson. People will be displaced from their homes, black homeowners and landowners. So this is not an issue. I see all the white millionaires in here salivating at the idea of another reservoir and economic development for Jackson. But that economic development will not include the black low-income residents of Jackson right now today. As a community member and a resident of historic neighborhood, Washington Addition, West Jackson, and an environmentalist, I oppose this project with every fiber of my being, and it should not pass. This is a disgrace. Disgusting.
Sir?
Hello. I also oppose this project. My name is Morris Mock, and there's two meetings going on right now. There's a meeting that's saying this is riverfront property, right? There's a financial gain in a lot of these communities. Some people here because they feel like they're going to make more money off this project. The land has already been bought all around. Now we're not talking about building, or we're not talking about flooding like Madison area or even widening the reservoir. There are other alternatives, correct? There are other alternatives. We're going with this extreme alternative where we're going to have grandma's house up for sale, where we're going to offer, we're definitely not going to offer them fair market value for this house, right? So there's generational wealth. There's the fine print. I'm going to say the fine print that's not being shown. The schools are at risk. The hospitals are at risk. The grocery stores are at risk, right? While one group is thinking about beachfront or riverfront property, while the other is saying, hey, how's grandma's going to pay her bill, or how's she's going to sustain her living? right? I think that we are definitely not as transparent. I think that every group is not well represented here. I feel like there's groups that's in Jackson. How can I explain this to Grandma? How can I explain what's going on right now to Grandma? And we're having a conversation about this, but there's plenty of grandmothers in Jackson. There's plenty of people in Jackson, and we have a few days just to make this decision, and they don't have a clue what's going on of a decision where people are, the only thing they care about is riverfront property. I hear a lot about, oh, well, my business and the area that I live in. Look, I respect your business, all the respect. I do respect your business. The thing is that Grandma's house, this is generational wealth that she's going to leave. This is it, where she's going to go. You know, I mean, it's a shame that because I'm one of those canvassers that knock on doors, and we're definitely going to vote some people out. But I'm one of those canvassers that knock on doors in Jackson. And this project has not been well described. We don't even know. All we know right now is that there's a plan. And y'all are going to do something. But the rich people know exactly what y'all are going to do because they've already bought the property around. But all we know, all you're telling us is this vague, there's a plan and trust us with it. And we're going to have some money to fix this plan. I think this is a disgrace. I don't feel like every group is well represented here today. And I want to say that. It's a shame.
So, sir, I completely appreciate everything you just said, and this is a great opportunity to reemphasize where we are in this process, right? This is early engagement to let you know there's a road ahead. There is no plan. There is a plan that people talk about. There's this one lake plan that was submitted that you all know a lot about, but we're still forming and storming on these other plans, so we want to hear your ideas. And there's meetings coming that we haven't calendared yet. We've got this kind of jammed in because we wanted to get out ahead of the holidays, start to whet the appetite, hear what you got is on your minds. These sessions have been phenomenal, right? So we have a lot of work to do. We want to be transparent. We want to be inclusive. We're going to need your help there, right? We need people to talk to each other. We're all here to roll up our sleeves and find those solutions that get this community where they need to be about flood risk and the other things that may come with that.
Sir? Hello. Can you hear me? I don't think your mic's on.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Thanks. I'm Sam Beckley. I'm a resident of Jackson. I live at 255 East Brook Street, just up the street off Lakeland Drive behind the firehouse. Most of my life I've lived in Bellhaven Heights neighborhood. I have an office downtown. I'm a lawyer. We have a central business district. We have skyscrapers. We have people working in those buildings. We have a large capital complex. I'm in support of the lake project. It is designed to protect our downtown from flooding. Our central business district is a key economic component of the state of Mississippi. We also have an enormous post office downtown where a good bit of the mail in Mississippi is distributed overnight. That would be inundated by a flood. I've heard discussions about this being some private deal. The lake project is a project of the levee board, which is comprised of mayors and members of the board of supervisors of Hinds and Rankin counties. It has drawn the support of the Mississippi legislature, which has members from every area of the state. It has been a major project of the Metro Jackson Partnership, our Chamber of Commerce. The lake project is designed to protect Lakeland Drive going out towards the airport. Increasingly, that has become the medical corridor for central Mississippi. We cannot have that area flooded. We can't have doctors and nurses not being able to come to work at the 2 hospitals there and the various clinics. And I don't mind saying this. I kept up with the appropriations process I read the Washington Post, Politico, and Wall Street Journal. That $221 million wasn't really for some, I guess, theoretical concept. Political leaders had in mind a project that's been developed at the local level, which is the Lake Project, where a consensus has been built around that. And that, the fact that Congress included that in the infrastructure bill should give this Corps a signal about what the elected branches of government want out of this agency and others. And I don't mind saying that the Lake Project is a lot of things, but it's also a construction project. It will put men and women to work. They will be paid Davis-Bacon wages. In all likelihood, the contractors will have to get skilled labor from the union halls, from the operating engineers, the laborers, the electricians, and the plumbers and pipe fitters. That's a good thing for this area. There's a lot more I could say, but I'll just leave it at that.
Yes. Good evening. I'm Socrates Garrett. And I've been in Jackson a long, long time. And we've studied this process and this project for 20 plus years. And we continue to hear that we have to study. It was very, very difficult for us to get these communities together. I served as a past chairman of the Greater Jackson Chamber Partnership. I served as a member of the levee board. It was difficult to get Rankin County and Hinds County and all of these various mayors on one page. But we came to a consensus that this was best for the metropolitan area. Now, a lot of conversation is focused on Jackson, and rightfully so, but Jackson is not the only beneficiary of this lake project. On both sides of the river, there stands to be tremendous economic opportunity. Now, one thing I'll have to say about the local partners, we have been in agreement for a long time. I've made so many trips to Washington, D.C. in support of this project. The late Senator Thad Cochran was in support of this project. We lost so many people that fought this fight so gallantly. Leland Speed fought this fight so gallantly to the end. And people have contributed their time and their money to try to make this project come forward. And so, let's focus on Jackson just a little bit. Jackson cannot grow to the north. Has no growth opportunities there. It cannot grow to the east. Its boundaries there. It cannot grow to the west. Clinton has it blocked there. It cannot grow to the south. It runs into Byron, incorporated there. Jackson is locked into its geographical boundaries without any potential for growth. The only potential for growth that it has is within that footprint. And the only opportunity that we have now is to make this river that God blessed us with be a blessing to the citizens of Jackson and provide the economic opportunity that makes this place become a tourist attraction. Makes us have a river beachfront that we can walk on, that we have hotels in the middle of the river, that we have all of these businesses that are surrounded. It's the only chance that Jackson has got to grow and attract a new tax base. Because other than that, it's on a very downward spiral. But this project would do more than just stop the flooding in Jackson. The One Lake project has been recommended to the Corps for the last 20 years. And after we came all together as local citizens, our problem was trying to get the Department of the Army and the Corps on the same page, which was a tremendous challenge, as it continues to be a challenge now because you still have not committed to the local preferred project, which we would hope that you would have done so by now. It's critically important that Jackson has an opportunity and the metropolitan area has an opportunity to develop this river. It is the single most important asset that we have. We cannot allow it to continue to be underutilized in the way that it's currently being done. It must protect our citizens and our homes from flooding, but it must grow our economy. It must grow our base. It must make Jackson a place that is a destiny spot, which we currently have no other way of doing that other than this river. Thank you very much.
Hello. That's loud. My name is Theo Walker, and I don't think we've heard a lot from people who actually live in the areas or who actually were impacted by the flood. Like my house was flooded in 2020. I've been in my house, well, I've had my house 10 and a half years approximately. My house was flooded in February 2020. COVID happened March of 2020. So everything was kind of put on hold. I moved back into my house in March of 2022. So just approximately a year or so back in my house. A lot has been stated here. I'm glad that you all, talked about the mental health toll that it takes on you. There's a lot of anxiety that came about because of having to deal with the floods, all of the stress, the loss of material things. The flood insurance prices are astronomical. I've learned a lot living in the flood zone. My situation with the flood insurance is flood insurance, it has to be paid January of every year. And for my house in a low income area, it's $6,000 that has to be paid out of pocket. I can't afford that, so I have it through the banks because I still owe on my house, and they're only concerned with making themselves whole. So at some point, it's going to come a point of where I owe less than what I could repair my house with because the cost of everything has gone up. So I am for these voluntary buyouts or whatever that you all are proposing, because at some point my house is going to flood again and I'm not going to be able to afford to repair it. I'm also not in the best shape to have to be trying to pack up and move my belongings that I am trying to save. I've had to, call on family and friends at the last minute for the August 22 flood that occurred. Thank God the water didn't get in my house this time, but the water did come halfway up my yard. Ants got in my house trying to escape the floods up on windowsills. That was the first time I had seen something like that happen. What else? I am a proponent of
with riverfront businesses, districts, and you see young people flocking to those areas. Jackson has nothing like that. Mississippi has nothing like that by and large. If we could have a comprehensive flood control project that not only takes care of the flooding, but also offers opportunities like that for young people and gives incentives for those people to stay in Mississippi, to stay in Jackson, that is most certainly an added bonus. I would also like to mention again that Ted Hennepin has supported the project. He is the federally appointed third-party administrator for the water sewer system. If you live in the United States, you have heard about Jackson and its many problems in the last year or so. This is a problem that there is a solution for, a readily available solution. Not all of the problems that you have heard about related to Jackson have a solution that is readily available at our fingertips. Residents see this problem, but they also see a solution, and they are ready for action. And I would urge the Corps to start the action as soon as possible.
I'm Susan Gerard, and in my professional life, I lead the state's largest cultural institution for children, the Mississippi Children's Museum, with its flagship campus across the street on the bluff, looking over at LaFleur's Bluff. And I also serve as a founding member of the Great City, Mississippi Foundation. Thank you for your work and consideration of our community's input. I'm a strong supporter of the local plan for many reasons, and primarily many that have already been stated. It's a comprehensive solution that addresses the potential to reduce flooding, provide an opportunity to ensure a safe and clean water supply, provide new outdoor education and recreation opportunities, and very importantly, to allow for economic growth for generations of children and families in our state's capital. The Mississippi Children's Museum serves over 200,000 children annually here in Jackson and has award-winning programs serving children all over our city and state, including an on-site after-school program with children from 5 different schools in the Jackson public school system. We can see daily some of the social, emotional anxiety that comes during these major flood events. We watch as the river rises and the children watch as Eubanks Creek begins to lap Museum Boulevard. And many of these children are in neighborhoods and schools that begin to see this. We think that we would love for children to know about the river in a more healthy way, and they have little access to play or to have water recreation in our city. We can have a new vision for our river and for our city. I can see the river as a place to educate, provide outdoor opportunities. I can see improved parks, beautiful greenway trails that not only connect us to the river but to each other, access to water recreation resources, and reduce the possibility of flooding, reduce polluted streams and tributaries. The local plan could be transformational for Jackson. It could make a future water plant possible. It could address repeated flooding. We can build and create a healthier community, and we can provide a more certain and optimistic economic future for our children if we have a plan of resiliency and restoration to create a more prosperous and beautiful city that our children can be proud to call home. Thank you.
Sir?
Good afternoon. Thanks for putting together this hearing. I think I've been to probably over the last 28 years, probably 6 or 8 of these in Jackson. I'm Joe Lauderdale. I live in Jackson, Northeast Jackson. I own a business in downtown Jackson on South Parish Street. Been there about 40 years, do pavement maintenance work. I have a lot of great associates there that live in Jackson, and they're wonderful people. And my property is next to Town Creek, and in the last 2.5 years, we have to kind of stop work and move our equipment, machines, out. I've rented 18-wheeler, covered vans and put supplies in them that can't get wet in anticipation of the flooding. Lately, the Pearl River Water Supply District has done a great job on managing they can of Torrent Reservoir outflow. I'm really proud of them. I know that they work diligently. A lot of people have put a lot of time and money into this project to do something about flooding. It's been studied more than any project I've ever been around. I'm a licensed professional engineer. I was with a consulting engineering firm 10 years, and it flooded on Lakeland Drive in 1979. So I waited in there, moving our engineering drawings up, all through the night while the flood water rose. It was really scary, really scary. But there's a solution. We know there's a solution to this. To the people that are totally against it and all, there's nothing that we can do. We've addressed everything in the world to try to calm your feelings. But for some people, you can explain everything until the end of the earth and they'll still not agree to it. So I hope some people realize that. We need to do this project, get it done, set a deadline, which I know that can be done. I used to do a lot of design work. I'm very familiar. I did a lot of design work for the Corps of Engineers back in the 70s. So I'm real familiar with the process, and I know there's a process, and I know you have to follow it. But I think we just need to do this. It'll help with our water supply. It'll help with the flooding. It'll help with some development, which we badly need here to keep our young people in our city and the area. I've got 2 kids, and they each have 2 children, and married, and they love the area. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it go down. I want to build it up. And I know there are a lot of people that feel the same way I do. We've got a great city, got a lot of potential, and we can make it. We can get it back like that, but we just need some help. My company is. I'm staying in Jackson. I've thought about leaving, but I'm not going to do it because I know there's a solution in sight, and I think we're about to grab it and do something to help our city, both economically and you know, in a healthy, safe atmosphere. So thank you very much for y'all's time and everybody here. Thanks for the help. I always love to hear from environmental people too. Thank y'all. Hope y'all have a good evening. Thanks.
My name is Jessica Russell, and I live in the Bellhaven neighborhood in Jackson. So the Pearl River is about a 5-minute walk on foot from my house. I'm here because I love Jackson and I love the river, and I know that our town deserves a river that works with our community and works for our community, and not something that is a problem and a constant issue. I know that when we talk about the river, we can't not talk about the community, and we're here as a community. Our answers, I believe, are in the community, and I thank you for hearing from the community. I know that you are exploring options and that you haven't chosen an option, so I just wanted to represent some viewpoints to consider as you explore different options. I know it's really fun and exciting to think about tourism and the economy and all the things that development can possibly bring, but I also think it's important to remember that a healthy economy depends on a healthy environment, and that any decision made that does not consider the environment as a foundation, especially in a city that has been well, everyone knows that cities with high minority populations and environmental justice we don't have a good track record there. So this is an important thing for us in Jackson. Healthy environment, we do want a healthy economy and we deserve that, but first things first, I think we have to do right by our people and by their health and by the flooding of their homes, and we have to do right by our nature and our environment. And so I just think that that's a really important thing to consider, and I hope that you are able to show in the plan that's chosen the ways in which that was considered. I have a question, and I would also like to just do a quick comment of a vision. I think it's really important for people in the community to talk about the visions that they have. And when it comes to flood control, I just want to say that I envision a future in a town where people aren't afraid every time it rains, but also that we're able to walk from our homes to the river or drive to the river and have access to a healthy, clean river that looks like a river, that behaves like a river, that has healthy landscape beside it, supporting healthy wildlife beneath it, and not around it, maybe not so much having condos and shops, but maybe a beach and maybe herons and willows and those things that are so important, that are proven to, talking about social and emotional anxiety. I'm really excited to ask this of you. I don't get access to Army Corps of Engineers people very often, but in an era where it seems like there's an emphasis in a lot of communities on undoing restrictions to rivers, how do you approach
considering whether or not to add an additional water flow restriction.
So, yeah, that's a really good question. And so, through our plan formulators, there's a multi-step process, taking in the considerations that Brandon went through earlier. That includes weighing in how we remove structures as well, right? So we're talking about how you get things out of a river that were put in a river that are now causing adverse effects like erosion, siltation, the things that we're talking about.